Welcome to Beyond the Links, the podcast where golf meets business. In each episode, we chat with partners about what fuels their passion, why they team up with the Mitsubishi Electric Classic presented by Vensure, and how they're reshaping the game on and off the course. Join us for insider stories, behind-the-scenes insights, and plenty of laughs as we explore the partnerships that keep golf thriving. Please welcome our host, Trinity Hundredmark.
Hello, everyone. I'm Trinity, and I'm excited to kick off today's show. Today, we will be talking to Corporate Director of Sustainability at Coca-Cola Bottling Company United, Tammy Stubbs. Tammy, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. It's the first nice day we've had in a couple days, so I appreciate you taking the time to come inside and share a little bit with us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Coca-Cola Bottling Company United and what your role is as Director of Sustainability?
Well, I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Coca-Cola United is a franchise of the Coca-Cola Company. We're a fifth-generation, family-owned, privately held company, and we still have members of the family working in our business day to day. We cover much of the Southeast. We're in 6 states: Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, the Panhandle of Florida, and part of Tennessee, the Chattanooga area, which is notable because that's where the first Coca-Cola was ever put into a bottle, ever in the history of Coca-Cola. So we're very proud to have that as part of our history and our heritage.
Interesting. So tell us a little, what is it that Coca-Cola Bottling Company United actually does?
As I mentioned, we're a franchise of the Coca-Cola Company, so we manufacture, sell, and distribute the products of the Coca-Cola Company. The Coke Company creates the products, the great marketing and the branding, and there are franchises all across the U.S. and all around the world who do the same thing we do. We just happen to operate in the 6 states I mentioned previously.
Okay. And what is it that you do in your role as Director of Sustainability?
I lead sustainability for our 10,000 associates across United, and we are focused on packaging and recycling, water conservation and water replenishment, energy conservation and renewable energy, and all of those things lead to lowering our carbon footprint. And so we work internally on our own facilities, and then we also work with our customers and communities across our territory to support sustainability initiatives.
And how did you kind of get into the sustainability space? You want to tell us a little bit about your background?
It's funny, I've been doing sustainability before it was ever called sustainability. I've worked with Coca-Cola my entire career, starting when I was going to Georgia Tech as a student. We did a project at our production facility here in Marietta, Georgia. And from there, I joined the company as a part-time job, and then once I joined full-time, I worked in the lab, and one of my very first jobs was going around with a beaker and a timer to identify leaks and how much we were leaking so we could prioritize them. So water conservation, sustainability from essentially day one. And from there, I've worked in quality as quality manager, plant manager, so manufacturing plant. I've led engineering teams with equipment and facilities work in the eastern half of the U.S., and then also got into packaging, and again, before it was called sustainability, really working to reduce the amount of packaging we need for our bottles, cans, cardboard, the films we use, all of that, seeing really where we could take out materials that are not needed, so you just need less. And then I also led a team where we took all the innovations that were created by the research and development team and figured out how to make those in our manufacturing plants with our products, our packages, as well as our coolers, vendors, and dispensing equipment. And so from there, Coke United created a role because sustainability is very important to Coke United, and I joined Coke United 4 years ago.
Awesome. Well, you've talked obviously about sustainability, and it's obvious that that's a core focus of the company, but what are some of the other core values and priorities of Coke United?
So Coke United has 4 core values: quality, integrity, excellence, and respect. And is quality in everything we do. We want to be excellent in our service to our associates, our customers, our consumers. We want to be number one. Number two isn't acceptable. integrity, doing the right thing, even when no one is looking, and respect. And respect starts with our associates internally, how everyone is treated. I can say, Coke United is a family-owned company. All of our associates are treated like family. I've felt that way since I've joined. And then on with respect for our customers, our consumers, and our communities. Really being a good corporate citizen, but being a real member of the community.
Well, that's amazing. So obviously, with sustainability being that priority, what are some key initiatives? I know you talked about it kind of briefly, some things you've kind of done historically, but what are some key initiatives y'all are working on now?
A big part of what we focus on is helping to support the building of a circular economy or recycling supply chain. Sometimes circular economy can be a little elusive terminology to folks who aren't in it every day. But when you think about, how does something get to the store, people have become more familiar with what a supply chain is. Well, we really need to be more efficient in how we get those used materials, once they get that recycling bin, be much more efficient of how we get them back so they can be made into new packaging materials again. And that really is a big focus of what we're working on, both with our own facilities, with our customers, as well as all the steps in between from the processors onto our suppliers, and how do we get those materials back again.
And so as you're looking to reduce your environmental footprint, what are some specific steps y'all are doing, particularly in the area of packaging and water conservation?
Sure. And, packaging is a big focus for us. I mean, it's what everyone sees and touches and uses. So it really is a big, important part of our business. So number one, we've designed our packaging so that it is made to be remade. It can be made into new packaging again and again. And with that, we want to make sure that the materials are recyclable and can be used back in our packaging. A great example, back in 2022, you may remember the Sprite bottle was green. And most people don't know why we went from green to a clear bottle. We did that for the sole purpose of making it easier to be recycled back into a new bottle again.
Gotcha.
While green plastic is completely recyclable, most often it's made into something else that, maybe like furniture or decking or something like that, rather than being made into a new bottle, because it takes more energy to get the green out of there. So now we have more bottles available to be recycled again and again. That was a really big deal for us because Sprite being green is such an iconic part of that brand.
Right, yeah.
And so Fresca, Mellow Yellow, as well as Seagram's Ginger Ale, all those were also part of our portfolio, which we've converted from green to clear. When we think about also water conservation, and we also look at water replenishment. So within our facilities, water is key to our products. Without water, we wouldn't have a business because it's our number one ingredient.
Right.
You can look on any package. In our facilities, we need water for cleaning, sanitation, and other processes. It's essential to our processes. So we've worked over the years, really decades, to be more efficient with that water use and minimize the amount of water we use.
As you look to these initiatives to reduce packaging waste and maybe reuse them, how do you feel like you all are making an impact on either the industry or the community or both?
In several ways. One, we work directly with some communities, and we also, through an industry association, the American Beverage Association, we work ourselves as well as with our competitors, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, as well as a number of other beverage companies, contribute to a fund that's managed by the Recycling Partnership. And a great example is here in Gwinnett County, back in 2020 and 2021, a grant was given to the county to supply recycling carts to 8,400 residents. And so that's a way that we're trying to make recycling available to more communities, and these types of projects are going on all around the United States. When we look at what we're doing as a Coke system directly, we're creating an end market for those materials by including recycled materials in our packaging. If you look at all of your Dasani 20-ounce, 12-ounce, 1-liter bottles, as well as every Coca-Cola branded 20-ounce bottles, they're all made completely from recycled plastic bottles. And you'll see it on the label, I'm a 100% recycled bottle. And we're very proud of that. And we want to continue to do that because us using those materials creates that end market. And without that, there's less demand for the material. So therefore, less being collected, less being sorted, less being sent for processing. So it's the end of that recycling supply chain, making it into a new product again.
Now, are you all actually part of that end sort of recycling supply chain? Can you tell us a little bit about just the overall process, how it sort of works?
Sure. So you'll put your can or your bottle into a recycling bin. From there, it's picked up by a hauler. So, just like you have your waste picked up by a hauler, the recycling is picked up by a hauler. From there, it's taken to a facility where all the materials are sorted. So the plastic's sorted, steel cans are sorted, aluminum, cardboard, paper. Each of those items are sorted out, and then they're baled. And each type of material is then sold to a processor. That processor will take, for example, plastic bottles are shredded and washed, and the caps are sorted out, the labels are sorted out, so they can be recycled in another facility by another processor. And the plastic processor will take those shredded plastic bottles, melt them down and form it into pellets. It takes out the impurities and puts it in a form that can be sold to the bottle manufacturer, where they're molded into what we call preforms. It looks like a test tube with threads on the top. And then those preforms, we'll buy those preforms. Many of our plants have blow molding ahead of filling, and those preforms are heated up and formed into the shape of a bottle, and then they're filled, and the process starts all over again.
Wow, that's so many steps, but it's so important as we look to try to reduce waste in our communities. Well, we're super excited that you've taken the opportunity to partner with the Mitsubishi Electric Classic presented by Vensure. Tell us why this partnership is important to you all.
Well, first of all, the Mitsubishi Electric Classic is committed to sustainability and to recycling. Ashley Hamilton, when I met her, she is the senior tour director and is completely committed to doing it in the right way and being authentic, not just talking about it, but actually doing the work. So, we want to support those efforts, and we're very excited to have the opportunity to engage with this tournament.
Have you been able to realize that your or Coca-Cola's sustainability goals align then with the tournament's green initiatives?
Absolutely. Recycling being a big part of it, selecting materials that can be recycled was a big part of it. And then ensuring that those materials are actually being recycled. So last year, we teamed up with Ashley and her team. We brought in a third party to assist in making those connections, to select a hauler and a location where those materials would go that is trusted and proven that they actually do separate, sort, and send all those materials to processors so they can be remade again into new plastic bottles or cans or cardboard or any other materials that they may have for recycling.
Well, we certainly appreciate your help knowing to try to get into the sustainability space for an event as large as the Mitsubishi Electric Classic has certainly been a challenge, and we certainly appreciate that. Are there some other specific ways you all have helped to try to help us make the event more sustainable?
I think really the discussions in, learning from each other. Ashley and the tournament were really in a learning mode last year, really stepping up what they were looking to do. They've done a number of things over time. I think operationalizing recycling is a really big part of it. It seems so easy to put something in a bin, but then, where do you put the bins? How do you pair them up? Where do those materials go? And we had quite a few discussions around the operations and how those would work, but the tournament has a great team, so they were all very committed to making it happen in a very effective, and it has to be efficient for it to work after all.
Right. As I'm sure you've realized in the conversations, golf courses and events like this require a lot of resources. How do you feel like these types of events and courses can be more eco-friendly?
I think number one is really being deliberate about what you select to be part of your offerings, both from a food perspective, signage, other things. I know we had lots of discussions on a myriad of materials. So selection of that. Secondarily, identifying where the waste is most likely to be generated, so you can have the infrastructure to collect both the recycling as well as waste. You may have compost in some locations. I know they did back of house for last year's tournament. And then each step from there, what happens to it? Being really conscious about what's happening, thinking it all through from where your attendees are all the way to your staff and how they're going to manage it. Because if it becomes too difficult or overburdensome, it's not likely to happen.
Right. What about in terms of normal individuals, players, fans,
Sure.
people that are attending? What can we do to help create a greener game?
One, pay attention to what's available to you on the course. Are there recycling bins? Are there trash bins? If there's not something there with you, take it with you to where there is something maybe at the clubhouse. I know it can be challenging to have it all around the course, so you may need to take some things with you. It's a small step to make sure, one, we're not littering.
Right.
Deliberately or by chance, things can blow away with the wind. So you want to secure, your waste or whatever things you have with you so they're not being blown around. And really paying attention as you're going to the course.
Right.
And, where are the recycling bins? Where are the waste bins? Making sure you're securing what you brought with you, what you're carrying on your cart along the way. You don't want your waste to turn into litter, certainly, most of all. That's not pleasant for any of us. And that's how our environment really does become unattractive,
Right.
unenjoyable for all of us.
Right. Have you seen or heard of any other success stories from maybe bigger or major sporting events that we could learn from in terms of becoming more green or sustainable?
One of the great examples that we have right here in Atlanta is Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That stadium was being designed and constructed. They've really had sustainability in mind. The sustainability team there at Mercedes-Benz has been on a years-long journey to become zero waste, and I know they're very proud to say, and it's really very impressive to see what they've done to become a zero waste facility. But it's taken them time to grow.
Sure.
And I think having a vision in mind, and theirs was to be zero waste, and how do you progress from there? And they've done a lot to engage the staff that works at the facility, help them become a part of the program. And then they've also engaged the fans in fun ways at events, recognizing people for doing the right thing by putting their waste in the right place,
Right.
whether it be the recycle bin or the waste bin. And they also have great messaging and signage, and all of those things combined have really led them to the place they are today.
That's amazing. Well, what innovations in sustainability are you most excited about as you look to Coca-Cola's future?
I really believe that advancements of technology really help us be able to recycle our materials more and more effectively and more easily to make those materials available for us and others to reuse. So the technology advances, 25 years ago, we had difficulty making a bottle that was really functional and acceptable from a consumer perspective out of recycled materials. And today, while it's noticeable, you have to pay attention to really
Right.
notice it. So I think those, advances in technology are really going to make it much more efficient, easy, use less energy to make recycled materials in the new packaging.
How can other companies or individuals get involved to help make sporting events more sustainable?
Wherever there's some sort of sporting event, if you think about the waste that you have, what is it that are the biggest items that we have? It could be cans, it could be bottles, cardboard. Those are typically the biggest items at events. And start with those. Can you collect those? Even if you don't have recycling pickup at your event or venue, is there somewhere you can take it? Do you have enough that volume that it makes sense to have a pickup, and just start with where you're at. I think about, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about like little league kind of sporting events that,
Right.
People may go to every day. Well, you may not have recycling at the park that you're going to, but there's no reason you can't bring a bag and collect everyone's recycling, encourage people to do that, and then demonstrate to whoever's managing that event that it can be done if we all commit to it.
Yeah, every little bit helps, certainly.
It does.
Well, you've had the, I'll say pleasure, but we've had the pleasure of having you be a part of our Executive Women's Day. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience at that event during the golf tournament week and what that meant to you?
I was so impressed by that event. Number one, the program that was put together, the panel, the discussion with that, but then all of the women who attended that event. I mean, that was an impressive group.
Right.
So many different companies and experiences, beyond the panel, the discussions I had. It was really a great networking event, and I'm very fortunate that I was able to attend it.
Well, we thank you. You were actually a speaker, right? Is that right?
I was one of the, kickoff introductory speakers to help introduce some of the panel.
Well, we appreciate that. What about the tournament itself? You've been out there. Do you have a specific memory or something that you really enjoyed being out on the golf course?
Well, first of all, it is just a beautiful golf course.
It is.
I mean, it was just a top-notch event, and since I'm a sustainability geek, I was really so impressed with the setup that the tournament had for recycling. I mean, all the bins were paired, recycling bins were paired with trash bins, and they were placed so frequently that it would be hard not to do the right thing. And that is just such a big commitment. It was just such a beautiful event because I think in part because of that.
Right.
Everything just flowed so nicely that you could just enjoy the beauty of the course because everything was just so nicely laid out.
Well, we appreciate hearing that. If you could give maybe one final takeaway for our listeners about sustainability and golf and just regular life, what would it be?
When I think about sustainability, oftentimes it just seems overwhelming because people
Right.
talk about saving the earth, saving our planet. And the reality is what impacts our everyday lives the most is right at our fingertips.
Right.
And we can control that. We can take the time, one, to not litter. That's the biggest thing. While I've encouraged people to recycle, please put your waste in a waste bin because our community is beautiful.
Right.
But it is littered with trash. People don't always act responsibly. So one, it's at your fingertips. Put it in a waste bin, put it in a recycle bin, and that impacts the world you live in the most immediate way. It makes your everyday life better and will have a long-term impact for our future.
Right. Everybody's little bit helps, right?
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. I want to give a special thank you to Tammy and for your partnership and insight into Coca-Cola. It's been a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you so much. Don't forget, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter for more updates and behind-the-scenes content. And remember, you can continue to catch all our podcasts on your favorite streaming platforms. Until next time, I'm Trinity, signing off from Beyond the Links.
Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed the show. For further information on the Mitsubishi Electric Classic presented by Vensure, visit MitsubishiElectricClassic.com.